I don't know, Lee. We have a perception, and I tried to capture it here a bit in this draft. This is just a cut of a work plan that needs to be massaged, looked at, and commented on by this committee. Okay.
Okay.
So rather than starting with a blank page, rather than starting with just an outline, I put something together for a working document. And I plan to have it, as a result of this meeting, this interchange.
Yeah.
It's a dynamic thing. Okay?
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
working
that's great.
process.
Yeah.
And so we will update this, and maybe in a couple of iterations or so, it'll become something that will become what we can use as guidelines or what have you. I just called it a plan. I didn't know whether to call it a work plan, because certain things have connotations. If you call it a work plan,
Yeah.
or you call it policy or something like that. And I wanted to stay away, so I try to keep it a generic title for that reason, okay? And then that can always be changed or what have you, if, you know, to fit into a process within, you know, how things are done, okay? So it's not cast in brass, it's a cut, okay? And it's a starting point, all right?
Okay.
One of the things, and I don't want to monopolize this conversation. I want to make sure everybody here gets some thoughts. So please don't let me run on and ramble on and monopolize this thing, okay? Because I will.
Fine so far.
We need to know. I'm kind of a schedule guy. You know, I need to know events. I need to know milestones. I need to know need dates so that I can kind of get things in order and get things lined up to get going, okay? That's kind of the way my mind works, all right? So, I kind of like to know when, two things that are tied together, when we go to the mayor and city council with whatever this committee produces, okay? When is that?
Yeah. So, I think there's there's two different, I think, avenues that, you know, kind of under the Citizens Oversight Committee that you can take. And, you know, last year was the first year we did this. And so one is to the council, one is to the city manager. You guys fulfilled the city manager role. And not that you didn't fulfill the other, we weren't sure with the new group. So that form of a manager's budget addendum that you submitted to council, which is due kind of that first week of June, is something that's really important, and something that we kind of came up collectively, you guys and us, but I will say it was very well received by the mayor and council, and actually as a result of that MBA, it reminded the mayor and a number of other council members that in their policy reports, staff should be citing any commission input separate from the Neighborhoods Commission, but if like Planning Commission said something, or you know the Aging Committee, you know, had said something, so it did actually kind of spawn, hey, staff, aren't you supposed to be doing this? So that's very well received, and as the person that wrote the mayor's June budget message last year, we took stuff out of that and used it. So I think that is something that you will want to do as a commission and as advisory to the mayor and council. The other thing is, you know, you do work closely with staff, and so one of the things I would suggest is, you know, for this group, it probably doesn't need to be something that's a year-round group, but really the budget process kind of kicks off in February and ends in June. And so in February, what will happen is the city manager will release a 5-year forecast. And then in March, you know, a budget message will come out, and then staff will start putting together the budget. What's going to be really interesting, and the last time we spoke, I think I told you guys, because what you had asked for is, hey, of that $40 million, what's coming into the city, and then what are you spending it on? And what I said, well, it's general fund money, so it's really hard for us to account for it and then tell exactly what we spent. However, with our new budgeting software and the way that the state and the State Board of Equalization are collecting that tax, we are getting a separate receipt around that 40 million. So I think what we'll be able to do, whether it's the budget office, mayor's office, or anyone, is to come tell you, hey, of the sales tax this year, it's really generating 35 million, 36 to 37. So you get an idea of that, and then you can still go back to, what was on the ballot and what the city decided, along with you, to spend that money on the first year, and not direct, but ensure that staff is including that in the budget. So I think there's an avenue for you, kind of in the February-March timeframe, to communicate to the city manager's office and have a better idea of kind of what that pot of money is going to look like that year. We estimated that it was 40 million when we did the tax. What we've learned is when you collect a new tax, sometimes it takes people to kind of catch up and collect. So it's been very volatile over the first year. So it's anywhere between like 38 and 40. We're not exactly sure yet, but it's been somewhat volatile. Especially that first quarter, we thought,
you're right. That's kind of what the budget, that was kind of what the expectations were all along. But I don't know. I thought, maybe wrongly, that the provision of Measure B kind of implied or stated that there would be an accountability for those funds that came in because they were outside. So you're going to collect 0.25% of the money. That 40 million is going to come in, and I know people I've talked to anecdotally, not officially, anecdotally, just in talking, they're voting for that measure, and then I've gone through some of the material here that supported that Measure B. The concerns were they didn't. The only reason they voted for it was the fact that there would be accountability, and there was a lot of reluctance not to vote for it because people vote for things and then the money disappeared and it didn't get spent on what theoretically it was going to be done. So their expectations in talking to me, once again, unscientifically, just anecdotally, all the people I talked to was, we'd like to know it's $40 million and went to potholes, went to additional fire or police or response time improved, or some metrics that say it's in there and they're happy, as opposed to we took that money and put it to good use and thank you and you know what I mean. I'm not trying to be flip with you.
No. I totally hear what you're saying, and the accountability kind of provision is something that's often used in cities and other states with like a specific tax. So it's much easier and you account for it differently. This is not that. Since the last time I talked to you, where I didn't say it was a black box, the general fund, but it would be hard to account for. Is like I said, luckily we are kind of accounting for that separately with the way the Board of Equalization is collecting that revenue. So we can tell you any given year, hey, this tax is 40, 42, 43, which would be great, or it came down to 35. Unfortunately, the way our budget works, we don't do zero-based budgeting. So, hey, let's scrap everything from the table and build a budget this year. Cities don't do that. So what I told you guys in the spring, which is still really important, is that document of the very first time the sales tax came to council and we appropriated that money, which I believe is MBA number 14 from a year ago.
2 years.
That's something that you guys will always need to look at, and then look at the budget to ensure that we're not eliminating that. We talked about we're going to budget for 1,350 police officers. Are we eliminating police officers? We were going to add back, 2 fire stations so there was no brownouts and 3 fire squads to help with EMS calls. You'll see in the budget, are we cutting any of that? And so that can be something, I think that's how staff will work with you to come in and say, here's what this is raising. And quite frankly, what's going to happen is we spent $40 million on those priorities. What's going to happen this year probably with the budget is we're only going to probably cut 36. We're actually probably not going to cut any of those things because those were core services that we added back. We'll find a way to bridge the gap some other way. But that MBA for the next 7 years will kind of be a guiding document that staff always presents to you and then shows you the budget that, hey, we didn't cut something, or if there is ever a catastrophic year, yes, we eliminated this.
Okay, so, and another thing that kind of triggered this made this happen in my mind too, was we saw the provisional budget, I think it was signed by Noberto, that said, this is, I think, before the ballot got passed, but if I think in the event of, it was one of those things, if it passes, this is the way, and there were allocations, specific allocations.
And that's the document I'm referring to.
Yeah, and that, so that was, to me, that was great. I mean, it's kind of like a roadmap that said, hey, okay, we're going to put 11 million here, or we're going to put 2 million there, or what have you, and it was dispersed amongst those 4 or 5 items that were mentioned in the measure.
Yep.
And to me, that's a good yardstick.
Yep.
I mean, that works for me in my mind, and that's kind of what I want to say. The other thing was that, once again, I don't want to monopolize this conversation, so please. At some point in time, when we come to the end of this thing, I'd like to be able to produce a report or a product that says, hey, we got from the CMO, from the budget office, from the city auditor, what have you, this accounting, and we're not auditors, we're oversight. This is the money that came in, and this is where the money went, and we're okay with that. And that, to me, we're done with our job. I mean, we satisfy that. We're not going to go into the weeds and because you can spend that money any way you want. And if we find that $40 million went into the X fund and not into those 5 items, we can just state that. Hey, this is where the way the ballot measure read, and we got $32 million or $40 million came in as a result of the tax, and it didn't go to any of these entities.
Yeah.
Or maybe only half of it went to. And then we report on that. That's our finding.
Yeah.
For this committee, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
Now your office will have to say, hey, that's a valid observation, and this is why that happened, and there's no animosity there. We're just reporting facts.
Yep.
Am I?
Yeah, no, and I think we can make that super helpful for you. Luckily the way we're accounting for it now and collecting it, it's easy for me to tell you what is coming in. What I still can't tell you, and there's a workaround, is that specific dollar or penny went to that program, because it's still dispersed amongst 100 different things. But what I can do is, and now that I'm thinking about it with you guys, I wish I had maybe typed it up and showed an example. But you're referring to Noberto's provisional ballot.
Yeah.
That's the same MBA I'm talking about.
Okay.
What I think Sabrina and I would do for you next year is to take that memo and put it into like a matrix, so to speak. Here's what we did in 16-17 and what we promised.
Absolutely.
Here's the the 19-20 budget for next year, and these programs are either equal, more, or less than what we promised you in 16-17, so that you feel comfortable. Hey, I don't know that specific dollar is going to that program, but the commitment we made in 16-17. You'll know if we're impacting that program and what was on the ballot.
That would be great.
And that could be actually be something that gets.
And you see a matrix like that, that works.
Yeah. So I think we could easily do something like that. I mean, that's pretty
good.
straightforward, Sabrina.
I
right?
come out of a world.
Hey, stop for a minute.
And that's kind of what I was looking for. That was one of my
Okay.
questions. How are we going to receive the information, and how would we really know? If you just say you have $38 million that came in from the the quarter-cent sales tax, then where did it go? And what you originally said was that we would have to do some extensive research to find out where it went. But what you just said makes perfect sense, in that you would at least give us a baseline to work from, and then the baseline either went up or it went down, depending on where you put the money.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty easy to produce, and it makes our job should be to make this easy for you guys, so that you don't have to worry about talking to your auditor friends or anything else. And this should be a very straightforward exercise for us, and I think would make your life a lot easier.
And what Gary said is true. We're not auditors. All we're doing, we're looking at the overall picture and just stating the facts. Up, down, this happened, this didn't. That's all we're really out here to do. So.
Will there be an outside auditor, or will all of this financial information come out of the budget office?
So every cent we collect and use is audited by internal and external auditors of the city, and
Right.
this fund would be no different from that.
Is it, I guess, analyzed independently or separately? Will they give us information to help us, or is it kind of just part of the big pile of?
Yeah, I
budget
don't think you would
information?
need to see the account auditables for it. I think what you really need is, once the forecast is being developed and the budget is being developed, and we finally have a good case of, okay, here's the revenues on all this, because we're going to, project that revenue separately now that we can do that. That's kind of the number you need is, and some of the analysis and quantitative analysis of why, we're at 36 versus, 40 or something, Izzy did come forward with as well. It's actually quite interesting how they arrive at that number, and it's done very intently and interestingly.
But there will be nothing specifically to massage the numbers or package them in a way that will make our job easier specifically on the local sales tax thing.
Yeah, no, it's very easy. I think it's much easier now that we know how the Board of Equalization is accounting for it.
Yeah,
to come in and say, here's how much this is raising this year.
Yeah. One other thing that we've talked about is money is completely fungible, right? So we got $5 million additional on PCI or something like that, How do we know that they didn't take $5 million out of the existing budget and put it back into something else? In other words, how do we know that this was all additive as opposed to being hidden, I guess, maybe? We're not going to accuse you of malfeasance or anything sneaky, but how do we say that we really know that the money came and went there versus it went here and that piece moved off aside? So this $5 million knocked that 5 off the table, and the net is that the budget was the same.
Yeah, well, and I think that's part of, because the general fund's so vast and it's over $1 billion, like I said, I can't tell you this exact dollar went to this, especially because those programs which we gave the money to, they're not special fee programs or anything else like I would have to do or the city would have to do. But I do think, like in a matrix style or us saying, we promised that we were going to fund 1,350 officers. It's very easy for us to say, we still have this much money, and for us to say, we have still budgeted that number. And so that's what you need to see, whether those, those original, I think it was like 6 or 7 programs that we, that this council invested in, that those stay the same. They could be raised or they could be lowered. And that's where you're going to be able to tell, oh no, they needed the money for something else this year, The flood happened and we needed $10 million or something like that. But
we could explain that. There's nothing wrong with that.
I think staff would try to explain, whether it's me or anyone else would try to kind of walk that through.
So this MBA 14 applies to last year's budget. Is there an equivalent document on the current budget? Because certainly our thing was content-free.
Because that was the first time the money came in, and again, we budget incrementally. So the first time we have money or there's new money, that's when it gets appropriated and really talked about. Unless we're making changes to it, we don't talk about it again. So that's what we're going to do with you is we'll use that first provisional budget or MBA 14 kind of as the baseline.
Okay.
And then year to year, I think we can come to you once the proposed budget's out, and
just plug in
the matrix, or even show you in the budget. Hey, we're going to budget for 1,400 officers this year, or By the way, that'll probably never happen, or at least not in the next few years. But it'd be very easy for Sabrina and myself, Reagan, or someone from the budget office to kind of walk you through that.
Yeah, because this is an ongoing thing. This goes out 15 years or something like that. And
yes.
It'd be nice to see, and if you see it in that kind of matrix thing, and you see from year to year the value added, what we got for that. You're going to have 40 million over 15 years. What is that? 600 million bucks, something like that. Mm-hmm. That's that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And what did we get for that $600 million? That was a good thing, and it was put to good use, and it was value added, and we got tangible results.
Yeah. And really what we're trying to do here is lay the foundation for those 15 years.
Yep.
Set it in stone, not necessarily set it in stone because it is flexible.
Sure.
And we change it as we go along, but we're trying to really set the foundation for the next 15 years so that whoever comes in after us can pick it up and run with it.
Right, not reinvent
and carry it up. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
why we want to put all this on the front end, get this thing going, and it'll be tweaked. It'll be updated, but at least they'll have something that moves on.
Okay.
So who would be, if not you, you said somebody from the budget office would be giving us the information or the matrix or...
Well, I think honestly what will happen is that time of year, the budget office, those poor people work about 20 hours a day.
I know.
So they will probably not come here. I think, whether myself in my new role, Reagan in her new role, and working with Sabrina, I think someone will come and, I've enjoyed working with you guys, so hopefully it'll be me this first year and kind of help set up the baseline and what the document looks like. But Sabrina is also very knowledgeable about the budget, and I think once we get something up, would be able to help with that as well.
Okay, so
I
if we
think
have
if we get-
questions,
yeah.
should we-
Sabrina can't get enough of you guys. So.
If we set this up, that will facilitate this too.
Yep.
If they know something that has to be fill in the blank kind of
Correct.
thing, that makes everybody's job, I think, is going to be easier.
Absolutely.
Might be helpful. I mean, I don't know, it's because I walked in. Could we have a flow chart of how we're going to work with you guys?
That's a great idea.
No, we kind of spoke about it really briefly.
I'd kind of like to get a workflow going,
Yeah.
showing the cycles, what's
Chain-
coming
chain of
in,
command.
who does, and some, it doesn't be, but once again, that's the world I came
Yeah.
out of. That's what I'm used to.
So
working
if I
with.
could just throw out a suggestion and then food for thought for you, I think, towards the end of February, beginning of March, it'd be good to have kind of a kickoff meeting for the budget season, because that is when the 5-year forecast comes out, so that the group has the context of, okay, this year there's a surplus of $20 million, or there's a deficit of 35.6, which is what we have on the forefront in front of us next year, so that you at least have the context, and the smaller group has the context of kind of the overall budget and what the administration and what the mayor and council are facing. Once the proposed budget comes out and is being discussed, April, May, is when those revenue projections will be much more fine-tuned, and it would be we would have all the information, staff would have all the information they need to come to you and say, the tax is generating this much this year, and here's where it is relative in the proposed budget to the baseline of that provisional budget. So we would have all the information then that we would need staff to present kind of that document we've been talking about. And then you guys through, May would have, the ability to work in your smaller group and then bring to the neighborhood commission ultimately kind of what your recommendation or what your draft outline would be in your MBA. Because ultimately that is a great way to communicate to the mayor and council, and then that really needs to come to the mayor and council the first week of June. Honestly, outside of kind of that February to June timeframe, other than receiving reports that are very financial in nature and kind of auditable, I don't know that, you would need to do that.
So that means we got to get our work done in April to take it to the full commission in
Yeah,
May.
Honestly, I think
to get
April
it-
and May will be your heavy lift. Like it is everyone dealing with the budget,
Yeah.
April and May is their heavy lift.
But our group will have to finish our work in April so that we can go to the full commission in May, because we
Yeah.
won't be able to do it by June, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so our deadline is April.
Yeah,
Yes and
that's
no.
what it is.
I mean, you guys
I
meet
realize
at the
there's a little
beginning of the
wiggle room.
month. No, I was just going to say, you guys meet at the beginning of the month, so you guys could hear the presentation in April, start working on it, maybe have somebody come back in for the first meeting, because it's the first day, the first Wednesday in May, finish up your final report and provide it for the subsequent
Oh, I see,
week
this group, I see,
to
okay, yeah, to
the
go
whole
to-
neighborhoods commission for
Good
their
point.
approval. So it would be done in May to go in for June. I'm just saying you have like a
No, that's a good
little
point.
bit, a little
We
bit more
need,
time.
when we get done here, let's go over
Yeah.
these things.
I agree.
So the commission meets the second week in June. If we don't issue our MBA until then, isn't that past the time of it being of any use whatsoever?
Not at all. I mean, so the budget gets approved the third Tuesday of the month.
Right.
So council could still react to it. I think what was really beneficial for me, and I think would be beneficial for Reagan, as Sam's new budget director, is having it before the mayor's budget message is submitted. Because I took stuff out of it this
Yeah.
year. I mean, when you guys said the stuff about kind of neighborhood quality of life and a few other things, we added funding to some Beautify SJ programs as a result of that. So it was very...
Oh, that was our regular letter. That wasn't the MBA that we did.
It was either your letter or MBA. Either way,
Okay.
it would
It
would
must have been
be
a letter,
great
because the
for-
MBA was content-free.
Okay, so it would
MBA was
be either way, whether
Yeah.
it's a letter or an MBA,
Uh-huh.
it would be
Okay.
helpful that it comes out before the first Friday in June,
Yeah.
so that the mayor's office has a chance to include any items that you would want.
So that budget letter for us has got to go out in
In
May.
May.
And
Yeah,
I,
it
and
has
I
to be
think we need to do another one in
Absolutely.
February. I want to push for that again, because that informs the mayor's March budget message.
It does inform the
Yeah,
mayor's budget.
and maybe he doesn't pay any attention to it, but at least it lets us get some stuff
Well,
on the
and
table.
that's, by having that meeting in February with kind of the context of the 5-year forecast, you could give advice to the mayor and council as a commission on, hey, there's a deficit this year. Please try and hold on to all the core services that you've just added back, or
Or something more
hey,
specific.
there's a surplus
You
this
know.
year. It's time to invest in something.
Yeah.
That's
Or we had
probably-
a couple of very specific things last year. I think
Yeah.
one of them was fireworks, and the other one was staffing in the call
For
centers.
the
Yep.
dispatchers.
For dispatchers. And those were like, if you got some money, put them here, that's what we're hearing. We don't know enough to advise on this other stuff. I mean, we're just not savvy. But we can give you the heartbeat of the community. Now, our job is to give you what we hear. And if the bulk of the thing is, dispatchers, that there's not enough response, the cops tell us, the fire tells us that dispatchers is where the bottleneck is, well, this is what we've learned, take it and run with it. And I think that model works really well. And I don't know that we do it with this one.
Right.
It's a different deal.
I say that. Oddly enough, even though we all kind of sorted our way through the process last time because it was the first year, the end result was really good. So I think us on our side, kind of presenting this a little bit more user friendly, and you guys are right, kind of a baseline that we can just update from year to year. It's easy on our end, but it definitely makes your life a little bit easier too.
So getting back to what Mimi was talking about, our avenue of communication would be through Gary, through Sabrina, to whomever took over the lead on giving us information regarding the
Yep.
sales tax.
Yeah, and honestly, Sabrina's the most important in that equation because she'll, whether it's me or, Reagan or whomever, she's going to have a pulse on that, so you guys don't have to worry about it. So she'll be the more important part of that
So
equation.
that was one of my concerns. We want to do due diligence in reporting what we can report, but we can't report unless we have the information.
Correct.
So, that's redundant as common sense, but
Yeah.
has to be said.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
Would you like some snacks?
Huh? No, I'm good.
I promise them gluten-free stuff.
Yes, those mine bars are very good.
Yes.
Excellent.
I got a question and a suggestion. Question, do you have any examples of what you want us to produce?
Expectations?
I think those.
No,
the
form.
Yeah, no,
it's gonna look like
the
this
form of like
bag.
an MBA. I
Yeah.
think that is the most useful thing to communicate in. So,
So
and it's almost the
existing
form of a
one, that
letter,
MBA
really.
Yeah,
Yeah, you could take your letter and put it in an MBA format.
okay.
Okay.
You're
Do
comfortable
we
with all
do we
that?
have that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 14, is that what you're talking about? The 14?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then my suggestion was that we take MBA 14 from last budget year and we make a project of this group, maybe next month, to sit down and update it. Take the new numbers, go through so that we really understand what's there, and then we have an updated
Yeah.
sort of plan
That's what I
for
like
the
about
year.
the iterative thing, get something working before we
Okay.
do what we're gonna do,
Yeah.
and we kind of get the kinks out of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean, we get the time
I'd be
now
happy to help with that.
To make use of that before everybody gets into the crunch, and we don't have that flexibility. I think we got
Yeah.
some flexibility now in time.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of time. I'd be happy to help with that, so let me know.
Do we need to get that in Excel form or anything like that? Would that be useful?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can we do that?
The
MBA 14?
14?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because I assume we can do some math someplace and just plug in different budget numbers and
yeah,
it'll,
it's pretty-
it should
I mean,
fall
it's-
out, yeah.
It's in a table currently, so.
Yeah, but I mean, this looks like, to me, like it came out of Excel or.
It does all the math
yeah.
for us.
Yes.
Either that, yeah.
Yeah.
The
Don't be
table-
afraid of the math. Sabrina and I will
Yeah,
help with
it's a
that.
math.
Because once you got a template, I mean, then you
Yeah.
can kind of
Yeah, formulas.
plug in the numbers.
You too, okay.
Okay, so in terms of calendar, there is no real audit thing that we have to wait on to come. We'll start up really February, March, and close this off in April, May. Am I get that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that isn't a real lot of time. We're gonna
No.
have to fly, you guys. Okay.
No, because December is gonna be gone, we've got holidays and everything else, so January is really the first, probably good month.
Yeah, but if we don't
No
start till
holidays and stuff
February,
like- although there's
yeah.
a couple, I think there's a couple of one-day holidays in there. But not like Christmas or Thanksgiving.
Will we need in whatever document we produce, excuses, reasons, whatever? In other words, I'll put you on camera. Yeah, so say, we thought we'd spend $10 million on pavement condition. Okay, well, the flood happened and, we had to steal the 10 million from there and put it over the flood and everything. Do we need to do things like that and say your expectation?
You don't need to at all. I mean, that's what the city manager will do in their budget.
Okay.
If they're cutting a program, whether it's from that provisional ballot or any ballot, they need to explain, why we're doing it. So that would really be on the city's end. You are advising, so you got the ability through your MBA to say, yeah, we really don't want to see paved maintenance money be cut because there was a promise. But you could say, you could leave it at that, or you could say, but given the significance of the flood and they need to restore, blah blah blah, it's appropriate in this 1 year. So you get to advise on kind of excuses or the rationale behind the administration doing something.
And that goes into this MBA?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we have no responsibility to go
No, you
off to
don't.
D1
No, you
leadership group and present and say, okay, we looked at this.
No, you don't.
Okay.
We
So
could, we could have a finding, which was, in fact, we would have a finding for each one of these issues, that it either, let's say, met
Yeah,
our
that's kind of my thinking.
expectations, and then the impact. I mean, if there was an impact, so let's say it was positive, this impact, we hired more police, or we had more fire stations open, or if it was negative, we didn't get all the roads repaired or potholes fixed, and that was the impact. I mean, and then that would have to be done by the mayor, city council, or whatever, CMO, to say, yeah, that's true, and next year we're going to maybe accelerate this or do something. But I mean, we can kind of be neutral. It's a finding.
It's our finding. You get to choose whether there's enough rationale behind it or not, right?
Without
And
getting
that's your decision.
judgmental.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We're
Without
just-
making a
we're just
judgment.
reporting.
Yeah. Here's what
This is what we have.
Here's what
This is
absolutely
what happened to it.
Right.
Yeah,
And
you
then
you guys as a commission bear no responsibility
Yeah,
whatsoever around findings or the rationale of why something was proposed
Right.
or not.
And that keeps
You're
us
a check and a balance
kind of
on the.
neutral, whatever.
Yeah.
We're objective. I guess what I say, we're objective and not not judgmental.
But to follow up a little bit on, when we're talking to people and people are saying you're going to be on this oversight board and giving suggestions and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of interest in this. It would be, my suggestion would be you guys tout the $10 million extra and what did that turn into in terms of tangible benefit to the people who voted for it. So those who voted, we can say, oh, yeah, they built Gary a brand new swimming pool, man, and the thing is, and how I've been going to the library a lot, and every book has got some sort of, this book was delivered to you through such and such a fund.
Yeah.
The other thing.
And so identifying that this funded things, I think, would
It's
be
a
a
good
real good
suggestion.
deal, yeah.
On your end, it pays, I mean, it would be to your advantage, I would think, to show that a tax measure that was proposed for something got actually implemented for that, and there were good results. So if you go out for another tax measure, you could use this as an example, say, hey, this worked, and we got results, and we want to pattern something akin to that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
that was
no,
the
no,
resistance that I kind of ran into, was people were reluctant to vote for it because of previous, let's say, negative or perceived things not happening. Whether it was true or
That's
not.
helpful for us to know. I mean, the last thing the city wants to do is erode any public trust, and people voting to tax themselves more money for services. So that's very helpful.
Without results. When they see results, I don't have any heartburn if I say, hey, we're going to put $10 million into potholes, and then all of a sudden I'm going down Hamilton Avenue, and all the holes and the bad things were fixed. That's a tangible result. Yeah, boy, they spent that money and then it got done. That kind of thing. I'm okay with that. I'm seeing value for what that was done. Okay.
Okay. All right.
I think we're done with you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for
Jim, I
coming.
was going to tell you. I was hoping I was here tonight. I did fire ops last month.
Oh, you did?
I was
At
destroyed.
the training center?
Yeah, I was
Oh,
destroyed
yeah.
for like 2 days.
You.
I was a mess. I was so sore.
It does give you a workout.
Raul did it with me, and so we got
Oh,
very
good,
competitive. So
good.
instead of doing 3 stairs, I had to
Right,
do
right.
all 10, and breathing on a mask and oxygen is not the easiest thing in the world.
That is the best way to find out exactly what, the firefighters are about and what they do.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot about that.
Yeah, well, my body's still recovering from it. So.
Thank you,
Thanks,
congratulations again.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you for coming, really
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
of course.
So is Reagan taking your old job?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
She's going to keep some of her portfolio, like housing and some of the stuff she does, and
Uh-huh.
Paul's going to be, Paul Pereira will be lead on all things public safety from now on,
Good,
which is great for him. So,
yeah.
That is great for
yeah,
him.
Mayor had enough of me, so.
Stop making your kids sick.
They're making me sick.
That's what it is.
Petri dish.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
See you, Lisa, thanks.
Bye.